So what I'm going to do now is along here and along here, so on the side panel of my bag. Now, because this was a skirt before, you can see here it's got the 2 darts, and where I've cut it, the darts are starting to come a little bit apart here, so I'm just going to reinforce the top of the darts to stop those coming undone and having a weakness in the bag later on. So I've just stitched the top of that just to secure it, and I'll do the same on this one. So that should just reduce any weakness at the top, and that does feel much stronger now. So I'm going to put it right side facing. So I've got my side panel and the bottom of my zip panel, and you need to separate these layers so you just sew in to the outer, not to the lining, and this will prevent you having any seam allowance on the inside. Okay, so we don't want these raw edges showing in our bag. So line it up, pop it underneath, and I'm just going to hold the dart in towards the middle while I sew. Just check again that I've only got the 2 layers of fabric. Another check that I haven't got any of the lining fabric tucked underneath. Line it up. And now this dart's folding back, so I'm just going to lift up the foot, put the dart down. So sewing all the way down the side of the panel and all the way down the side of the zip panel. So then, if I flip it over, you can see that's the side of my bag. This is the top. These are the straps. So it's starting to come together quite nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the other side in exactly the same method now. So I've attached to the side, so you can see I've got the 2 sides of my bag. I've got the zip in the middle and the 2 straps. So the last thing to attach is the bottom panel. I'm just going to open the zip halfway now, because if I sew it together, I don't want to get to the point where I can't access where I've sewn. So because the back panel is such a long piece, and because it's on a curve, this needs to be pinned in place. I didn't pin on these because it's a short straight seam, but for this I definitely want to pin, because I don't want to get to the end and I've got too much or too less fabric, and then I have a weird kind of gather at the end. So I'm going to pin probably every 10 centimetres along the raw edges here. So I'm just lining up the straight edge with the curve and easing it round. This looks like it's going to fit in just neatly. Yeah, that's fitted in just right. But I'd never want to take the risk of sewing it and then getting to the end and I had too much or too little fabric. Line up the seam allowances here. And then I'm going to sew this all the way around in a curve. Let's pull the machine a little bit closer. So I don't want to start sewing right from the edge. I want to start sewing from the seam allowance. So I'll just take a minute to line it up. I sew too far, I'm going to have a tuck in the join of my bag. I'm going to go nice and slow here. I'm feeling with my finger where that little lump is, where the seam allowance is. I'm going to go all the way around, taking the pins out as I go. And you might need to just do a gentle bit of easing as you go, just to make sure you don't get any tucks or gathers. Right, so I've come to the end and I'm just going to check now between the back panel and the side panel that I haven't got any tucks. So I've just attached the side panel to the bottom panel. I've checked there aren't any tucks all the way around the seam. Now I'm going to attach it here to the where the tabs attach. So I'm going to put it across here, and you'll see that this piece is much longer than this piece. So it's designed to have a pleat in the middle of the seam, just to give it a bit more space to hold things in the bag. So I'm going to pleat it and then match up the raw edges. So it's flat here, I've got my little pleat there and it's flat there, and then I'm going to want to sew it from this side so that I can see how far along to sew it, because I only want to come up to these side seams. If I go all the way along, I'm going to end up with a tuck in it. So I'm going to use this line of stitching from earlier as my guide, and then I want to make sure the lining is pulled back here, so I'm literally just sewing through the outer layers of fabric. So starting from the side seam, I'm going to go all the way across. And then you just want to turn it over and check there aren't any tucks. It's all gone nicely. So yeah, we've got a nice neat corner there where the zip and the side seam and the panel meet. And then I'm going to try and get a neat corner on that side. I've got a loose thread there, so let's get rid of that. A lot of the threads will be hidden inside, but any external ones like that. So here we've got the join of the tab, the zip panel, the bottom panel and the side panel. So I'm going to go ahead now and repeat on the other side, and I'm also going to repeat the step of sewing this side panel to the bottom panel. So I'm repeating the last two steps again, and this is the stage which is really important to make sure your zip's open, because once this is all sewn together, that'll be your only access into your bag. So I'm repeating the steps from before, but I just wanted to come back on to show you that as I'm pinning, can you see here, it's not fitting on as nicely, and I'm ending up with much more on the bottom panel than on the side panel. So I'm just going to go back and pin along and kind of try to ease it into the bottom panel. So I'm taking my pins out as I go, trying to line up the edges as carefully as I can and pin along, and you can see the difference is getting smaller as I'm doing it. There we go. So by moving all the pins along, I've managed to ease it back in. I'm going to go ahead now and sew this side seam on my machine. The outside, so the outer fabric of the bag is now assembled, so it's just to do the lining. So this is where it's handy that we left the zip open, so you can just flip it around to the front now. So you can see the outside of our bag is starting to take shape. I'm just going to check that it's all assembled nicely. There's no tucks or bumps anywhere. And this is starting to become our bag. I'm actually really pleased with how it looks, and I don't think it looks like it's from a thrifted skirt. I think it looks like a really cool bag.